Hey, and our next presenter is Carolyn, and she's going to help us build a team. So Carolyn, build a team for us.
Okay, thank you, Denise. Yes, I'm Carolyn McGinn, and I took care of my mother who had Alzheimer's, and I took care of her over a period of about 8 years, plus 2 years of me being in denial, but 8 years of caregiving. And I also volunteer with a group of middle school girls. And when I was going through the training to be a facilitator, the director said to me, Carolyn, if you are not open and honest and genuine and raw with these girls, they're not going to be that way with you either. And you will never know what's going on in their lives. So I did that. I was very open and honest with them about the difficulties of caregiving, the difficulties of Alzheimer's. I just laid it out there so they would know, my life wasn't so easy either. And I had times when I was taking care of my mom when I thought, I cannot do this another minute. And my phone would ding, and it would be one of my little middle school girls. And I would get a text that said, hi, Miss Carolyn, I'm just thinking about you. How are you doing today? How's your mama doing? And it would totally turn my day around. Just knowing that someone, caregiving can be so isolating and so lonely. And just knowing that somebody out there was thinking about me, even if it was a sixth grader, would totally change my day. During that same time, I had a friend who lives a couple of hours away who was caring for her husband during the last months and days of his battle with cancer. I called her a few times. She didn't call me back. I texted her a few times. I didn't hear back from her. And one day her sister called and said, I know you've been calling. I know you've been texting. And I know she's not responding. Please don't stop. I can't tell you how meaningful this is for her. It's just that she's so exhausted, she can't even respond to a text message. So those two experiences got me thinking about how we receive support, and we can receive it in so many different ways and from so many different people. And so I started taking notes and putting some ideas on paper. And I'm a student of Denise Brown. If you know Denise, I put my ideas into a wheel. So I am hoping that right now you're seeing your support team wheel. And what I'd like to do is just go through the different categories that are my ideas, hear then about how you might interpret these because they're open to interpretation. And then let's brainstorm about who's missing from this wheel. So I'd like to start with my cheerleaders because that's what I came to call my little middle school girls. Those are the people who just tell you, you've got it, you can do this. They send text messages. And one thing that's funny, there's people that you see at the office or you run into at the grocery store and they're like, let me know what I could do to help. And then they kind of duck around the corner because they didn't really want to be in the conversation to start with. I started stopping them and saying, actually, sometimes the hardest part is just getting through the day. So if you happen to be thinking about me, shoot me a text, shoot me an emoji, and you would not believe how much difference that would make in my day. And people started doing that. And I noticed too that those were also the people that later on would call and say, hey, I made a big pot of soup. Can I drop some by your mother's house? Or I'm out running errands. Is there anything I can pick up for you? And I came to realize that when we invite people in to support us in very simple and easy ways, it kind of gets their foot in the door, and then they take the next step and the next step. A couple of those people actually even came and visited my mom, which I think is so hard for some people when someone has Alzheimer's and you've known them your whole life and you know they're going to be different. It's hard to take that step to come visit. So anyway, my cheerleaders became the next step. So The first one on my wheel is cheerleaders, and then mentors. Mentors are the people who hold the knowledge about the disease and the knowledge about caregiving. So my caregiving journey was in dementia. So people like Teepa Snow and Judy Cornish. In the caregiving realm, Denise Brown has been my mentor. Doctors, if you can get them to talk to you, are mentors, the ones that hold the information. And then the hands-on help. Those are the ones who are there, the caregivers who are with your caree helping. And I would add to that, since I've done this presentation before, also your backup. Who is your backup for your hands-on help? Then the last minute helpers. These are the people that you can call, and I didn't have them at first. I will say this, as I asked people to be my cheerleaders, and then those were the ones who started stopping by, then I was comfortable calling those particular people and saying, hey, if you're out and about today, could you swing by Walgreens and pick up my mom's meds? Because I don't have any backup at home today. Or can you FaceTime with my mother and just give me a break for a minute? I just need to go to the other room and breathe. And people were happy to do that. So my cheerleaders became my last minute helpers. Then the sounding boards. These are the people who just let you vent without judgment. Sometimes as caregivers, we just need time to just let it all out, and having sounding boards are so important. And the navigators are the people who know where the resources are. In HR, what does your company offer in the way of caregiving benefits? What can your company do to help you? They are the resources in the community. And I'm also adding to the navigators, these are the people who understand the systems, the legal system, the medical system. Denise has actually put together 17 systems that caregivers are going through at any particular time. And to have someone who can help you navigate those systems is so helpful. And then I'm going to skip the negative Nellies for a minute, because I'll talk about role models first. Role models are the people who have walked this path before. For me, I had an old friend from high school who was a nurse, and her mother had Alzheimer's, and she was just my go-to call person because she had walked that path before. And knowing someone who has walked that path, who can empathize, who can help you navigate the path, is just so invaluable. Now I'll go back to the negative Nellies. Now stay with me on this one. These are the people who say, well, you know what you should do. They should on us. And why don't you just hire an agency so you don't have to do the backup caregiving, or you worry all the time? Now, I will say you owe these people nothing. And we could do a whole workshop on how to deal with these people. We could do an entire conference on how to deal with the negative Nellies. But what I found is, in the quiet of my own mind and my own heart, I would revisit those questions. Yeah, I do worry all the time. What are my worries? How can I prioritize my worries? And how can I make a plan for each of those worries? And who can help me make those plans? Why don't I place my mother back in memory care? Why don't I hire an agency? Those type of questions really helped me anchor to my why. Even in the worst of it, even when I was in the weeds, I knew that this journey was changing me in a very deep way that was important for my personal growth journey. And having people bring that up every now and then, whatever I said to them in the moment, and I wasn't always very gracious, helped me to go back in my meditation, in my moments that sometimes were at 4 a.m. before my mother got up. I would revisit those questions and talk about, what is my why? Why am I doing this? Why am I making these decisions? And how can I move forward? Okay, I invite you to unmute or talk in the chat room. What on this wheel stands out to you? Or who's missing from this wheel?
So for me, one thing I would add is the calmer. So for instance, my dad likes to be independent, which means my dad falls pretty regularly, and the falls are pretty horrific. My sister has a very emotional reaction, and I am trying to be calm, and I call my brother then, who keeps me calm. So my brother is the calmer. My sister is the emotion. And I much rather talk it out. What happened? What are we going to do? Where is he? What are we doing for him? With my brother, who's the calmer.
The calmer, that's good. Mentors and role models stand out. Yes. One of my presentations, someone added prayer warriors for people of faith, knowing and keeping a list of those people who are praying for you. And someone added pets. Pets can be great cheerleaders and great sounding boards.
And I feel like pets are great calmers too. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yes. Yes, pets are great calmers.
Yeah.
I put together, and I'll put a link to this in the chat, but I put together a sheet for you to print out and to keep with you, so you can make a list of people. Then when you need them, you're not scratching your head going, oh my gosh, who can I call? You've got that list of people handy. Oh, my last minute people. Oh, I'm gonna, and I'll say too about mentors, it's not just people, it can be books, it can be workshops, webinars, websites. Who are my backup hands-on people? So I've got this available for you. And I also, because your list might be very different, I've got a blank one that you can fill out yourself. Okay, so now we know who can help, where are you going to find them? And since I am a certified caregiving consultant, I put the caregiving consultants at the top of my list. And I will say, please reach out to us, because I think most, if not all of us, offer a free initial session that you can use for any reason you want to connect with your why. If you don't know what your why is, let's talk it out. If you want to just vent, if you need help finding resources, take advantage of us. We are here to help you. So caregiving consultants can be mentors. We can be sounding boards. We can be navigators. We can be calmers. And we can be role models for sure, because we have walked this path. In your church, your place of worship, that's where you're going to find your prayer warriors for sure, but also sounding boards, navigators, role models. Friends and family. I found with friends and family, going back to those people in the grocery store that kind of duck around the corner, people want to help often, but they don't know how. And they don't want to get so involved because they've got their own lives that are full. So So being able to ask someone in a very light and easy way, just one thing they can do for you, especially when people are, let me know how I can help. Bye. Stopping them, say, you know what, actually, this is just one small thing. If you wouldn't mind doing that for me. The first years of my mother's disease, she lived with my brother and his wife. And I know it was very easy for me to know that my mother was being taken care of and I could live my life. And I just assumed that if they needed help, they would ask. The problem was they didn't ask until about 3 months past when they needed it badly. And they were so exhausted. So if you can think of ways to invite people to help before you're in the thick of it. And community resources, councils on aging, I found are a great place to find what your community resources are. We have caregiving specialists that can help with that as well. Any ideas that you have, please throw them out there, unmute or type it in the chat. Books and articles and websites and webinars. Those are excellent places to get help, and asking people what's one book that you read that really helped, or what's one article. Or another thing you can throw out to these friends and family who say, let me know how it can help. If you run across an article that you think would help, please shoot it my way. Those easy things to start people getting involved. Support, podcasts. Yes, podcasts are great. And that you can listen to those while you're doing other things too. Support groups, both online support groups, in-person support groups, and workplace support groups. So if your business has a support group, that is great. And check with HR and see if you can create one if there's not one there, and we can help you get that set up as well. Yes, Sheila, please ask. Sheila has a question.
Okay, my question was, when you were talking about family and you said your sister and your brother, or your sister-in-law and your brother, when they had your mom, right? Were they in the same city?
They were a different 10. They were about 35 minutes away.
Okay, same distance as my sister is from me and my mom. And I stay with my mom, and she has Alzheimer's like your mom did. My question is this: you felt like she was being taken care of, so you didn't reach out to help. And you felt like if they needed help, they would ask.
That was a big assumption on my part. And I think a lot of family members make that assumption. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. I guess my question would be, and I'm just going to be blunt with my question. Why do you think your brother would have to ask, and that's your mother? I guess I can't wrap my mind around why my sister would wait for me to ask for her to provide some type of assistance for the care of our mother. I still work full time. My sister has not worked in 6+ years. And I guess I just can't get my mind around it. And at one point, she went 2 years without even seeing or calling my mother.
Oh, wow. When you're not a caregiver, you cannot imagine how difficult it is.
Okay.
I had no idea what my brother and sister-in-law were going through until I got involved quite by accident, because it was becoming so difficult for them that we were going to hire people to come into the house and help. And then the pandemic hit. So my brother's diabetic. He didn't want people coming into the home. I'm a massage therapist, so I wasn't seeing clients. So I said, well, I'll come over and start helping. And that's when I found out how difficult caregiving is. So having played on that side of the ping pong table, I can tell you, until you do it, you cannot imagine how hard it is. So, and please, I'd like to hear from other people too, how, if my brother had just called me and said, Carolyn, we're exhausted, please step in, where can you help? You know, I would have taken it very lightly. I would have done something to help, and then I would have seen how hard it was. But what thoughts do the rest of you have about that? Because I literally waited to be asked.
Well, I think family dynamics play a big part in it. You know, your existing relationship with your siblings or extended relatives. And, you know, for myself, my sister lives nearby. She is very helpful. But there are times I have to ask specifically. And like you say, until you're living the caregiving situation, you don't always see what someone else needs. I know she's very busy with her job and her volunteer activities and education, and I try to be very respectful of that. And so, you know, it's just working on those lines of communication, I think, are very important.
And I'll just add that everybody is wired differently. So Sheila, you are wired to be an empathetic person. You get how to meet someone's needs. It doesn't sound like your sister is wired that way. So she might be wired to only respond to a direct request, whereas you respond to a need you see or feel. And it's very frustrating when someone is wired differently than that, because you think, I get it. I get that my mother needs help. My mother has a diagnosis. My mother has limited time left on earth. Why doesn't my sister get it? And it could be she is just wired differently, and she's in a different way of processing what this is like. And that's hard. It's frustrating.
It really is. I guess you just hit the nail on the head. Then that's absolutely correct. I just don't get it.
Right, I know. It's hard to get it because you are someone who understands a need and how to meet that need. And the other thing is you are someone who understands that someone is suffering in the family and that you don't want that suffering to continue. And it's unfortunate that you are suffering now too, and your sister just can't get it.
Absolutely. And who actually has more time on their hands than I have on mine.
Yes, exactly. Like, wow.
If I can make a comment, how are you?
Yes,
everyone?
go for it.
In this case, for me, it was completely like the opposite. My wife was diagnosed in South America, in my country, in Venezuela. And by that time, we were very close to the family. So there was a moment that everybody wanted to help. Everybody was coming to the house every day at all times. And there was a moment that I was like overwhelmed. I mean, come on, it's okay, you can help, but you know, everybody wanted an opinion. Everybody knew everything. Everybody brought like their doctors, and I went like, okay, let me take control of these. And I spoke to each one of them separately. Also, something that helped me a lot, after about 3 months, my wife was quadriplegic, so I needed a lot of help, and I was learning as well. We decided that one Sunday we invited everyone home, the family, friends, I mean, everybody, and we brought 2 doctors. So we explained to them what was going on with my wife. So they will know about the disease, they will know about the consequences, they will know about what to expect. She was immunosuppressed at the time, so we had to tell them not to come sometimes. If you have a flu or something, or one of the kids, please don't come to the house. So it took a process for us to teach them, and also to let them know when to come or when not to come. So it was a process.
Sounds like you had good leadership skills it took. Yeah.
And Tanika wanted to offer.
Yeah.
So go for it. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, good morning. I wanted to just Miss Sheila's comment made me think back to my own situation. So I've experienced, unfortunately, and back in 2013, I had to kind of help my mom with my grandmother who passed. And my mom was the oldest of four, well, three children remaining. And it was just me and my mom. And she had two other siblings. My grandmother had siblings that were, younger than her that could have helped. And I just told my mom, it's just me and you. Like, let's do this. At the end of the day, I'm spiritual, so God will judge that. And yes, I was upset because my grandmother has siblings, like a lot of siblings. And even when planning the funeral, I planned the funeral because I could see that, of course, my mom was grieving. I was grieving too, but one of us had to step up and get it done. And so it was me. And then years later, in 2020, when both of my parents passed, months apart, my mom first, my dad. I'm an only child. I do have a support system. My friends, that's why I kind of always say my friends are my family. So I was blessed, but thinking about my mom's family again, none of her siblings didn't step up. And at the end of the day, I just kind of said, it's my mom. It's my grandma. It was my father. So if no one's going to do it, like I have to do it. But present day, people don't understand why I'm still grieving because I was the one while everybody else was boo-hooing and crying. And I was the one that had to put that cape on, so to speak, and get it done. And so now I'm burned out, yes, it's been 3 years, and yes, my grandmother's been gone for 10 years, but back during those times, I was the one that had to get it done. So when I've seen people that have close friends that have siblings or just a lot of family, but my thing is just to God, I feel like spiritually speaking, everybody will have their time, if that makes sense. Like, I think if your heart is good, then you just do it, because at the end of the day, it's your parent. Like, even with my husband, he has siblings, and his mom always comes to him and I. So, yeah.
Yeah. I love that you recognize that you put your own grief on hold to take care of the logistics, and that no matter how long it takes, you're going to take care of your grief now and take care of yourself.
And I think, Carolyn, if you want to wrap us up, and then we'll take a quick break and then reconvene.
Yes. So I do just want to say thank you to everyone. If you want to, I'll put again the link to the PDFs in the chat box. And if you'd like to connect, Grandma Has Dementia is the name of my company, grandmahasdementia@gmail.com. So I will stop sharing here.
And I want to mention that Trudy and Carolyn have donated free coaching sessions, and we have 2 winners. So Cheryl is the winner of coaching sessions with Trudy, and Sheila, you are the winner of coaching sessions with Carolyn. And Trudy and Carolyn will follow up with you next week so that you can start to schedule your time with them. And you can use your time any way that works. That's
any way you want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to take, do you guys feel okay about a 5-minute break and then come back? We'll come back in 5 minutes. Okay, thanks, Carolyn. Thanks, Trudy.
Okay.